I never imagined my grandfather's peaceful, 5-acre legacy would become a battleground. It was just after dawn when I stepped onto the back porch, steaming coffee mug in hand, expecting another quiet morning of birdsong and solitude. Sky was painted in soft pastels, the kind my granddad always said meant good weather ahead, but instead of serenity, I was met with a low, mechanical growl. I blinked, focusing on the edge of the eastern field where sunlight barely touched the dirt, and there it was. A massive drilling rig, yellow, greasy, and growling like a mechanical beast, was inching across my land. Dust clouded behind it like a bad omen. 3 men in hard hats moved with practiced ease. One held a large blueprint. Another used a measuring wheel. The third sprayed bright orange X's onto the grass. I stood frozen for a second, mug halfway to my lips, steam curling up into my confused expression. My brain scrambled for rational explanations. Maybe they were lost? Working for the county, but they were clearly marking my land like they owned it. I set my coffee on the railing and jogged across the yard, boots crunching over the dry earth. "Hey!" I called out, waving my arms. "Hey, what do you think?" "You're doing?" The tallest of the workers, a broad man with a short beard and reflective vest, looked up with a calmness that infuriated me. "Drilling prep, sir," he replied, as if I were the one trespassing. "Prep for what?" I asked, breathing heavier as I reached them. "This is private property." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded bundle of papers, edges curled and stained from dust. "Pine Grove Estates HOA, we got the permits right here." I took the documents and scanned the top page. There it was, a permit, stamped with the HOS emblem, allowing well drilling on my land. My stomach turned. "This has to be a mistake," I said, flipping through the pages. "No mistake," the man replied. "You're Mr. Reynolds, right? This here says we're drilling on the eastern section of Parcel 19A. That's my parcel." I snapped. "But I never agreed to any of this," he shrugged. "We don't make the rules, sir. We just drill where we're told." The conversation was going nowhere. I scanned the permit again. It looked legitimate, almost too legitimate. Official logos, legal language, even a property map with highlighted boundaries. But nowhere did I see my signature. I didn't sign this. I sure as hell didn't give anyone permission. "I'm going to need you to stop work and leave," I said, standing taller. "Now." The worker nodded, but not in agreement. "Let me call the HOA president. She can explain." I stood in the rising sun, adrenaline pumping, the drone of machinery gnawing at my nerves while we waited. 20 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up and parked beside my fence like it belonged there. The door opened with a theatrical smoothness, and out stepped a woman in heels that definitely weren't made for dirt roads. She wore designer sunglasses, her hair perfect despite the wind, and her stride screamed entitlement. She didn't offer a handshake. "Mr. Reynolds," she said coolly. "I'm Margaret Wilson, president of Pine Grove Estates HOA. I understand there's been some confusion." "There's no confusion," I said. "These men are trespassing on my property. They need to leave now." Margaret's smile was surgical. "Actually, your grandfather signed an easement agreement with our developers nearly 10 years ago when the adjacent land was sold. It grants us access to the aquifer under your property in the event of a drought-related emergency." My jaw tightened. I've never heard of this agreement. She reached into her sleek leather binder and pulled out a document. I recognized my grandfather's signature at the bottom, shaky but real. The date matched when he'd sold part of the land to Pine Grove's original developers. I read through the fine print. There it was. In the event of a declared water emergency, Pine Grove Estates shall have the right to drill one emergency well on the eastern boundary of Parcel 19A. For the sole purpose of supplementing residential water needs. One well, I said, looking up. This clearly says one. That's singular. Margaret waved her manicured hand as if brushing away an insect. The situation has evolved. Severe shortages require a more robust solution. Our lawyers determined that the intent of the easement allows multiple wells if necessary. I folded the paper slowly. That's not what it says. You're free to consult an attorney, she said, already turning toward her SUV. But in the meantime, the community needs water. We'll proceed as planned. As she drove away, the drilling rig roared louder. More workers had arrived, setting up rigs and measuring new areas of my property. I scanned the field again. It wasn't just 1 or 2 marks anymore. There were at least 5 bright orange X's, some dangerously close to my garden, and the old oak trees my grandfather planted when I was born. The easement was specific. 1 well for emergencies, but they were already way beyond that. The entire operation moved like a well-oiled machine. Teams knew exactly where to go, what to do, and how to do it fast. It wasn't their first time. I realized in that moment, this wasn't a reactive move. It was a planned expansion. I took pictures, every marker, every machine, every contractor license plate. Something didn't feel right. I walked the field alone after they took a lunch break and found laminated blueprint sheets staked to the peely ground. They showed detailed layouts, well placement, piping systems, and pump installations. This wasn't emergency response, it was infrastructure. Why so many wells? Where was the water going? That night, I couldn't sleep. The whine of machinery echoed through the night air. They worked under floodlights, legal gray area, but no one was stopping them. My dog, Dusty, barked until I brought him inside. Even he knew something was off. The next morning, I called the county water authority. A clerk named Susan answered. Hi. I'm calling about any declared drought emergencies for Pine Grove or the surrounding parcels. There was a pause followed by the sound of keyboard tapping. No official emergency has been declared. Mr. Reynolds, we're currently in a level 1 conservation stage, voluntary restrictions, mostly for lawn watering. No drilling permits were issued by the county recently. I felt like someone had socked me in the gut. So there's no actual water crisis? Nothing requiring emergency action, sir? I hung up and stared out at the drilling rigs cutting through my grandfather's field. Later that afternoon, I drove through Pine Grove Estates. If there was a drought emergency, the residents sure hadn't noticed. Sprinklers ran in broad daylight, watering emerald lawns. A landscaping crew was planting fresh sod. A truck filled the community pool, but what stopped me cold was a new sign, posted on a large board near the main gate, coming soon. Pine Grove Estates, luxury water features, and resident lake summer. GRONDBRNKING luxury features, not survival, not. Emergency. They were using my land to build a fake lake. I snapped a photo with my phone and clenched my jaw so tight it hurt. This was no mistake. It was no misunderstanding. They weren't trying to save water. They were stealing it. Michael sat in his car, still parked outside the storage unit. Juliana's warning echoed in his ears like a gunshot in a tunnel. Her words weren't dramatic. They were calculated, quiet, terrified. She knew what Allison and Jay were capable of. He opened his email again and noticed something new. A forwarded HR complaint. Subject: formal concern regarding Michael Reyes from anonymous. Date: yesterday, 3:22 p.m. Greater than Michael has demonstrated alarming behavior toward a former partner. I've witnessed verbal aggression and borderline stalking tendencies. I fear for our safety. He may need professional help. Anonymous. But Michael knew exactly where it came from. The wording? Too polished. Too careful. Allison had help. Maybe Jay's legal team or someone higher up in his company. Michael clenched his jaw. This wasn't paranoia. It was systematic isolation. First his girlfriend, then his friends, now his job. Everything that tethered him to his life was being cut away. He knew what came next: the police. Back at the motel, Michael opened a fresh notebook. No more emotional spiraling. No more panicking. It was time to document everything. He listed dates and times of every text, call, and public smear. Screenshots of messages from Jacob, Chloe, Juliana.hr emails, anonymous complaints, social media. POSTS, a timeline of Allison and Jay's relationship. Then he made a second list: people to contact. A lawyer. An HR advocate, one he trusted. A private investigator. If this was war, he needed armor. At 11:32 p.m., he got a text from an unknown number. Greater than you should stop digging, Michael. You'll only hurt yourself. No name, no ID, just a threat. He stared at the screen, jaw tightening. Then, calmly, he took a photo of the message and added it to the evidence folder. They wanted him scared. Instead, he was becoming strategic. 3 days later, it happened. 2 uniformed officers knocked at the motel door just before noon. Michael had been expecting them, though not so soon. "Mr. Reyes?" the older officer asked. "We're following up on a concern about potential harassment." Michael stepped aside, letting them in. The younger cop looked around, noting the evidence board on the wall. Printed emails, connected dots, photos of social media posts. The kind of thing you'd expect from a detective, not a man accused of mental instability. "I've documented everything," Michael said. "You're welcome to review it. I haven't contacted Allison in any form since the night I left. I also haven't been anywhere near her or her office." The older cop thumbed through the folder. He whistled low. "This is thorough." Michael handed him a USB. "There's more here, including voice memos and statements. I've been targeted. This isn't just a relationship gone wrong. It's a coordinated smear campaign." The younger officer looked uncomfortable. "You're saying your ex and her boyfriend, boss, are setting you up?" "I'm saying," Michael replied, "that I was chosen, and now I'm being erased." They left with the folder and USB, no arrest made, but Michael knew better. This was just the opening salvo. Now they knew he wouldn't go down quietly. That night, Michael received a message from an unlisted number. "Greater than I heard you're the new Michael. I was the last one." Attached, a voice recording. Michael put in his earbuds and hit play. A man's voice. Scratchy, tired. "Greater than she did the same thing to me. Moved in fast. Took over my friend group. Then made me out to be the abusive one. I lost my job. My apartment. I slept in my car for 2 months. Jay had connections I didn't even know about. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted me erased." Michael's throat went dry. "Greater than you need to be careful. You're not crazy, but that's what they want people to think. Keep everything. Trust no one. If you need a safe place, reply with Gray Crow. I'll find you." Michael stared at the message. Gray Crow? Some kind of code name? He typed one word, Gray CROW, no response, but he suddenly didn't feel as alone. Michael wasn't just surviving anymore. He was fighting back. He filed a counter-complaint with HR, accompanied by timestamps, screen captures, and Juliana's anonymous affidavit. A day later, he retained a lawyer, Tristan Myers, a reputation management and workplace harassment specialist. Tristan reviewed the documents, nodding grimly. "You're not the first case I've seen like this. You're being gaslit on a public and professional level. But you've done the smart thing. You documented everything." "What happens next?" Michael asked. "We flip the narrative," Tristan said. "We go public, carefully, with controlled leaks. You want the truth out there? We make it undeniable. By the end of the week, an anonymous blog post appeared on Medium, The Smiling Abuser, How Narcissists Weaponize Empathy to Destroy You, by a survivor. It didn't name names yet, but the story was unmistakable. Cold, measured, backed by evidence. Allison. Read it. So did Chloe. So did J. And the next day, Michael got a call from an unknown number again. He answered. A woman's voice this time, greater than "You just made a very big mistake." Michael smiled. So did you. The article had done its job. Michael didn't need to name Allison. Not yet. The story went viral in certain circles. Reddit threads, abuse survivor forums, even professional circles where people whispered about weaponized HR policies and corporate predators. But the real payoff came on the third day after it went live. Michael's lawyer, Tristan, called. You won't believe this. 2 other people reached out through the blog. Same story. Different cities. Different years. But the same woman, the same man, the same pattern. Michael felt his stomach twist. It wasn't validation. It was horror. How long had this been going on? One of the victims, a software engineer named Ethan Doyle, agreed to meet Michael in a secured workspace Tristan arranged. Ethan looked like a ghost of Michael, unshaved, underslept, overcautious. She drained. Me? Ethan said, voice shaking. She wanted everything. My passwords, my social logins, my access to company portals. And then she flipped the switch. Suddenly, I was the predator. He handed Michael a small hard drive. Everything I collected before they forced me out. Emails, manipulated texts, even recordings. Michael accepted the drive like it was made of gold. He had just acquired proof of a pattern, and with multiple victims, Allison wasn't just a toxic ex. She was a predator with a system. Juliana, Michael's ex-roommate and one of the last friends he trusted, messaged him out of the blue. Can we talk? Not here, not text. Somewhere safe. They met at a laundromat across town at midnight. No cameras. No foot traffic. She looked older, eyes bloodshot, like she hadn't slept in a week. You were right, she said without preamble. All of it. I didn't want to believe it. I thought maybe you were just bitter. But after the article, I started asking questions. Michael listened, heart thudding. I talked to Chloe. She admitted Allison told her you threatened her. Said you had anger problems. But I remember. You never even raised your voice. Juliana's hands trembled. She's manipulating everyone, Michael. I think she even tried to get to my boss. I got written up for something I didn't do. And Jay, he's pulling the strings. Michael leaned forward. Why are you telling me this? Because I think I'm next. He handed her a burner phone. Then we fight back. Together. The next move came fast, and ugly. Michael was ambushed at a coffee shop. Not physically, legally. He walked in for a meeting with Tristan and walked out with a restraining order filed against him. Filed by Allison. The grounds: harassment, threatening behavior, digital stalking, unlawful surveillance, all of it fabricated. This is a preemptive strike, Tristan explained. She's setting the stage to destroy your credibility before we go public. They counterfiled immediately with a full evidentiary brief. But then came the worst part. That night, someone broke into Michael's motel room. Nothing was stolen, but his laptop had been moved. The burner phone was gone. The walls were clean. No prints. Just slightly rearranged. Someone wanted him to know they'd been there. Michael sat on the bed, fists clenched. They're not trying to scare me anymore, he muttered. There. Sending a message. Tristan was blunt. This is psychological warfare. You're going to need protection. Michael looked him dead in the eye. No, I need leverage. Everything changed the day Ethan's hard drive was decrypted and reviewed. Inside were audio of Allison coaching another victim on how to look panicked for HR meetings, screenshots of text between Jay and Allison, laughing about erasing Ethan.metada, proving forged screenshots sent to HR departments. One chilling quote from Jay: "If he fights, we'll bury him like the last one." Michael sat in stunned silence. This was bigger than revenge. This was criminal. Conspiracy, blackmail, defamation, retaliation, identity abuse. He met again with a detective who had reviewed his earlier police file, and this time they took him seriously. "Send me everything," the detective said. "But if what you're saying is true, this isn't just a harassment case. This is organized abuse of institutional systems." Michael's voice was calm, controlled. "It's what they do. She finds someone useful. He clears the path. They dismantle you and make sure you look like the problem." That night, he hit send on the final document drop to the police, to an investigative journalist, and to the legal office of a nonprofit that specialized in corporate abuse cover-ups. He had taken the shot. Now he waited for it to land. The fallout started as a whisper. An anonymous blog post dissected the smiling abuser. Medium article and suggested that it aligned too closely with a real couple in a well-known tech firm. Speculation began, and so did the digging. Reddit threads exploded with names, timelines, LinkedIn posts. Jay's firm issued a quiet internal inquiry. One of his subordinates leaked an internal email, greater than if any employees feel pressured into HR action without merit, please contact legal. All reports will be confidential. Then came the whistleblower. An intern at Jay's company had heard him laughing about HR weaponization in the lunchroom. She provided a recording. The audio quality wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. Greater than you don't destroy someone by yelling. You get them banned from the building. Same result, less mess. The intern leaked it, anonymously, and it went viral. That night, Allison's social media vanished. Jay's LinkedIn went dark. Their polished online images cracked like shattered glass. And Michael? He sat quietly in the same motel room, still waiting, not for revenge, but for consequences.